The room smelled of whiskey and expensive perfume. The dim glow of the city lights slipped through the half-closed blinds, casting jagged shadows over the twisted sheets. His shirt was still on the floor. Hers barely covered her. Their breathing was still heavy. She didn't even flinch when the door creaked open. A slow, lazy smile curled at the corner of her lips as she stretched like a cat, completely at ease, as if the moment wasn't about to shatter everything. He, on the other hand, froze, eyes wide, muscles locked, like a thief caught in a spotlight. "Well, this is awkward," she murmured, tilting her head, running a hand through her tangled hair. Not a trace of guilt. Not a flicker of regret. The man beside her, Nathan, my so-called friend, stumbled to grab his jeans, fumbling like a fool, mumbling something about it not being what it looked like. The sheer stupidity of that sentence almost made me laugh. Almost. She, on the other hand, didn't rush to explain. Didn't scramble to cover herself. No, Emily just watched me. Studied my face like she was waiting to see how I'd react. "You were supposed to be out of town," she finally said, her voice smooth, detached, as if my presence here was nothing more than a mild inconvenience. I stepped closer, each movement slow, deliberate. The air in the room felt thick, charged, like the moment before a storm. Her lips curled, a glint of amusement in her eyes, as if she was enjoying this. "You really thought I wouldn't find out?" The words came out colder than I expected. Nathan finally found his voice, stammering out something about how it just happened. My gaze flicked to him, and for a brief second, I considered breaking his jaw. But she was the real problem here. Emily sighed, rolling her eyes, completely unfazed. "Oh, come on, don't be dramatic. We both know things have been off for a while." A slow, burning rage settled in my chest, but beneath it, something darker. Something worse. She wasn't sorry. She never was. And in that moment, I realized, this wasn't a mistake. This wasn't a one-time thing. She never intended to stop. I didn't say a word. Not at first. Just stood there, letting the weight of it all sink in, watching as she stretched lazily, completely unbothered by the wreckage she'd just set on fire. Nathan sat frozen on the edge of the bed, still clutching his jeans like some pathetic idiot who thought covering himself up now would somehow erase what I'd just seen. Emily sighed, shaking her head like I was the one being unreasonable. "You're just gonna stand there? Say something, Ryan. Or are we going to do the whole dramatic silence thing?" The audacity. Nathan finally grew enough of a spine to speak, voice shaky, words rushed. "Man, I swear, I didn't mean for this to happen. You just what?" I cut him off, my voice calm in a way that made his face pale. "Slipped? Fell into my wife?" Emily snorted, amusement flickering in her eyes. "God, you're so predictable." She swung her legs over the edge of the bed, reaching for her robe. "Always so serious, always acting like life is some grand tragedy." Nathan took that as his cue to leave. He fumbled his way toward the door, avoiding my eyes, mumbling some useless apology under his breath. I let him go. He wasn't the one I wanted to deal with right now. Emily tied the robe loosely around her waist, then crossed the room, completely unfazed by the tension thick enough to choke on. "You know, we could have avoided all this if you'd just listened to me months ago." I blinked, not sure I'd heard her right. "Listen to you?" She leaned against the dresser, arms crossed, head tilted just slightly. "Yeah. I told you we needed something different. Something new. But no, you wanted to keep playing house, pretending like everything was fine, like we weren't suffocating." A bitter laugh slipped past my lips. "So cheating was your solution?" She shrugged. "I didn't cheat. I expanded my options. There's a difference." Something inside me snapped. Don't give me that open relationship crap, Emily. We never agreed to that. She pushed off the dresser, stepping closer, eyes burning with something sharp and cruel. No, you never agreed. I just stopped waiting for permission. Silence stretched between us. The only sound was the faint hum of the city outside, car horns and distant laughter, life going on as if my world hadn't just collapsed. She didn't regret it. Not even a little. For months, I'd ignored the signs. Brushed off the late nights, the distant looks, the way she barely touched me anymore. I'd told myself it was stress, that maybe we just needed time. But the truth was simpler, she was never mine to keep. Emily smirked, watching the realization settle into my face. You're finally getting it, aren't you? A slow exhale left my chest. The rage, the betrayal, the gut-wrenching pain, I buried it. Right then and there, I made a decision. I'm done. Her smirk faltered. Excuse me? I stepped back, grabbing my keys off the table. You wanted options? Fine. Now you're on your own. For the first time that night, her confidence cracked. Ryan, don't be childish. We can. No, I cut her off. You don't get to "we" me. Not anymore. She didn't expect me to walk away. Not like this. She expected a fight, a screaming match, a dramatic meltdown where she could play the victim, spin the narrative in her favor. But I wasn't giving her that satisfaction. Her eyes narrowed, lips pressing together in a tight line. So that's it? You're just gonna leave? A small, humorless smile tugged at my lips. Oh, I'm not just leaving. I'm making sure you regret this. And with that, I walked out, leaving behind the woman who had once been my everything, and now meant absolutely nothing. But this wasn't over. Not by a long shot. I walked out of that apartment and into the night, the cold air biting at my skin, but my body was too numb to feel it. My mind raced, but my heart? That was dead silent, like the calm before a hurricane. Emily thought she had won. She thought I would grovel, beg, scream, give her the dramatic show she wanted so she could justify what she did. But I had something else in mind. I wasn't just leaving her. I was making sure she felt it. As I drove through the empty streets, my hands gripped the wheel tighter than necessary. My thoughts weren't chaotic anymore, they were calculated. The moment she spat out that "open marriage" excuse, I knew what kind of game she was playing. Emily didn't just cheat. She expected to get away with it. She expected me to either fall in line or crumble. She had no idea who she was dealing with. First thing I did was call my lawyer. Not a friend's recommendation. Not someone Emily could manipulate. My guy. A no-nonsense shark who handled cases like a surgeon. Ryan, it's past midnight, he answered, groggy. I need a divorce, I said, voice steady. A pause. Then a sigh. Damn. That bad? You have no idea. All right. We'll talk in the morning. You sure you don't wanna? Already made up my mind. That was step 1. Step 2. Vanish. Emily's biggest weakness wasn't guilt, it was control. She liked to be the one calling the shots, the one pulling the strings. If she expected me to sit there, drowning in self-pity, she was in for a rude awakening. I checked into a hotel that night, but not before making a few key moves. First, I pulled my money. Every joint account, every credit card we shared, locked down. She wasn't getting a dime until this divorce was over. Emily liked to play dirty? Fine. I was going to make sure she had to scrape for every luxury she had taken for granted. Then, I went off the grid. No texts. No calls. No social media updates. Nothing. She'd wake up in the morning expecting a mess. A disaster. A fight she could twist into her own narrative. Instead, she'd find an empty home, frozen bank accounts, and absolute silence. I wanted her to feel the loss immediately. The morning after. The next day, my phone buzzed. Not with Emily, she wasn't dumb enough to call yet. She was waiting. Testing how long I'd stay quiet before she could pull me back into her drama. Instead, it was Nathan. I stared at his name on the screen, then answered, letting the silence stretch before I spoke. You've got 5 seconds to tell me why you're calling before I make your life hell. A shaky breath. Ryan, man, I swear, I never meant for any of this to happen. She what? My voice was calm, deadly. Tripped and fell onto your D******. A nervous chuckle. No, I mean, she told me you guys were already done. That it wasn't cheating. That. I almost laughed. Emily, you predictable little snake. Of course she spun it that way. You believe that? I asked. A pause. Then, barely a whisper, I don't know. Pathetic. I hung up. He wasn't worth the breath. Emily's meltdown. By noon, my lawyer had already set things in motion. The divorce papers were being prepared, and Emily was going to be served first thing Monday morning. I made sure it was handled aggressively, no loopholes, no delays, no chances for her to manipulate the system. And then, the inevitable happened. Emily called. I let it ring. Twice. Then a third time. By the fourth, I picked up, keeping my voice even. Yes? She was already seething. Are you serious? You emptied the accounts? Good morning to you too. Ryan, this isn't funny. I have expenses. Bills. What the hell do you think you're doing? I leaned back in my chair, smirking at how quickly her confidence was unraveling. Oh, you know. Expanding my options. Silence. Delicious, angry silence. Then she switched tactics. Look, let's not be impulsive. I was going to talk to you about this properly. I needed time. Time for what? I asked, amused. To figure out how to milk me dry before running off with your boy toy? A sharp inhale. Ryan, don't do this. We can work something out. I chuckled. Oh, we will. Through lawyers. That was when she lost it. The calm, composed Emily shattered. Screaming. Accusations flying. Suddenly, I was the villain. Suddenly, I was ruining everything. I let her rant. Let her feel the weight of losing control. And then, just before hanging up, I delivered the final blow. You should have been smarter, Emily. You wanted an open marriage? Congratulations. Now you're wide open for whatever comes next. Click. This was only the beginning. The hotel room was cold, sterile, and silent. The phone landed on the table as one by one, credit cards were locked, joint accounts frozen. Every trace of shared finances, gone. Emily thrived on luxury, on the comfort of knowing she had control. This would be her first taste of powerlessness. By the time the sun rose, everything was in motion. A lawyer, my lawyer, was already drafting divorce papers, ironclad and ruthless. No loopholes, no delays. Emily was going to be served first thing Monday morning, blindsided before she even had a chance to scheme her way out. The first call came at noon. Not Emily. Nathan. His name lit up the screen like a stain that wouldn't wash off. The call went to voicemail. He tried again. This time, it was answered. Silence stretched before a slow, steady voice broke it. You've got 5 seconds to explain why you're calling before I make your life a nightmare. A sharp breath. Ryan, man, I swear, I didn't mean for any of this to happen. She what? Calm, detached. Tripped and landed in your lap? A nervous chuckle, shaky and forced. No, I mean, she told me you guys were already done. That it wasn't cheating. That. Of course. Emily, the master manipulator. You believe that? A pause. Then, barely a whisper, I don't know. Pathetic. The line went dead before he could say anything else. By 2, Emily finally broke the silence. The phone vibrated twice before the call connected. No greetings, no pleasantries, just raw, barely contained rage. Are you serious? You emptied the accounts? A slow inhale, a smirk forming. Good morning to you too. This isn't funny. I have expenses. Bills. What the hell do you think you're doing? The panic in her voice was a symphony. Oh, you know. Expanding my options. Silence. Long, fuming silence. Then, a shift. Ryan, let's not be impulsive. We need to talk about this properly. I needed time. A low chuckle. Time for what? To drain me dry before running off with your boy toy? A sharp inhale. She hated when she lost control. Ryan, don't do this. We can work something out. The desperation crept in, just a crack beneath the arrogance. The moment she realized this wasn't going her way. The moment she understood she had lost. Let her feel it. Let her drown in it. You wanted an open marriage? The words were slow, deliberate. Congratulations. Now you're wide open for whatever comes next. Click. The moment the call ended, a suffocating silence settled in. Not the kind that brought peace, the kind that signaled a brewing storm. Emily wasn't the type to accept defeat. She wouldn't sit back and let her world collapse without trying to claw her way out, and she definitely wouldn't let me walk away without a fight. The real war was about to begin. By the time I left the hotel to clear my head, the damage control had already started. She wasn't calling again, no, she was thinking. Plotting. The next move wouldn't be desperate yelling over the phone. It would be something bigger. Something calculated. The first hint came barely an hour later when a mutual friend, Jason, texted. Dude, what the hell is going on? Emily's saying you lost it and ran off. Ah. There it was. The victim act. I didn't respond. Instead, I scrolled further. More messages, more concern. She was flipping the script. The cheating? Completely erased. Instead, I was the unstable husband who abandoned her and left her financially stranded. Emily didn't waste time. The next call came from an unknown number. Not spam. Not a coincidence. It rang 3 times before I picked up. A woman's voice, calm and professional. Mr. Carter, this is Deborah Miller. I'm representing your wife regarding your recent separation. So, she'd lawyered up. Good. My own attorney, Daniel, had already warned me this might happen. She's going to push back, he had said that morning. She won't make it easy. Of course she won't, I had replied. She's Emily. Now, her lawyer was on the other end of the line, trying to sound neutral but failing. Your wife has expressed concern regarding your abrupt departure and financial actions. She would like to reach an amicable resolution. A smirk tugged at the corner of my mouth. Amicable? That's interesting. She wasn't too concerned about amicable when she was screwing another man in our bed. A pause. Just a fraction of a second, but enough to tell me she already knew. I understand emotions are high right now, Mr. Carter. But financial retaliation isn't the answer. Financial retaliation? The words rolled off my tongue slowly, deliberately. No, Ms. Miller. What I did was called self-preservation. She exhaled, likely trying to keep her composure. Emily would like to discuss temporary financial arrangements until the divorce proceedings are finalized. Of course she would. Her credit cards were dead, her access to my money was gone, and her new boy toy wasn't about to start footing her bills. She was desperate. I leaned against my car, watching the city lights flicker. She'll get what's legally required. Nothing more. I strongly advise you to reconsider. Click. This conversation was over. The unraveling begins. Emily lasted another 6 hours before the next meltdown. By 10 p.m., my phone lit up with her name. The first 2 calls went ignored. The third, I picked up, but I didn't speak. Heavy breathing. Then, a sharp snarl. You think this is funny? Which part? The part where you humiliated me. The part where you stole my money. Or maybe the part where you're acting like a heartless piece of sh. A dry chuckle slipped through. Funny. You weren't calling it our money when you were spending it on hotel rooms with Nathan. She went quiet. For once, she didn't have an immediate comeback. That lasted 3 seconds. Then, a scoff. You're pathetic, Ryan. Honestly, it's sad. Do you think this makes you look like a man? Running away? Freezing my accounts like some petty little bee. You made your bed, I cut in smoothly, or should I say our bed, and now you get to lie in it. Oh, go to hell. The anger in her voice wasn't real, it was frustration. She was scrambling, losing control, and she knew it. See, that's where you messed up, I continued, keeping my voice calm, controlled. You thought you could keep me on a leash. That you could screw around, then gaslight me into accepting it. But here's the thing, Emily, I let the silence stretch, let her feel the weight of what was coming. I'm not your husband anymore. I'm your worst *ing nightmare ***. The sharp inhale on the other end of the line was perfect. She thought she was untouchable. Thought she could rewrite history, twist the narrative, make herself the victim. But I wasn't just walking away, I was burning everything she built. Her voice wavered, just slightly. You're going to regret this. A slow smirk. No, sweetheart. You are. Click. Emily had played her hand. Now it was my turn. The moment the call disconnected, the weight of Emily's panic settled in. She had played this game before, twisting reality until she became the victim, turning people against me before I even realized what was happening. But this time, she wasn't in control. This time, I was 2 steps ahead. The first move had been financial. The second was social. Emily thrived on appearances, perfect wife, perfect life, perfect story. If she couldn't have me wrapped around her finger, she needed everyone else to believe that I was the villain. That's why, before she had even woken up that morning, I had already spoken to the right people. Jason had been the first. His text earlier confirmed what I expected. Emily was already spreading her version of events. But I wasn't playing defense anymore. I was rewriting the narrative myself. A few more texts, a few well-placed conversations, and the truth started slipping into the right circles. I didn't have to exaggerate. Didn't have to make anything up. All it took was letting the facts speak for themselves. By the time midnight rolled around, Emily was already feeling it. Another call. This one, she didn't even wait for me to answer. The moment I picked up, her voice came through, laced with fury. What the hell are you doing? Leaning back in my chair, I smiled at the anger in her tone. Clarifying some details. You know, before people get the wrong idea. You're slandering me, she snapped. Spreading lies. Oh no, sweetheart. I don't have to lie. The words were slow, deliberate. Your work speaks for itself. A sharp inhale. The shift from anger to realization. Emily had spent years perfecting her image. She thought she could control the fallout. But the cracks were already forming, and she knew it. You're ruining everything, she hissed. No, I'm just taking back what's mine. She exhaled, frustration clear. All right, fine. You made your point. You're mad. You got your little revenge. But enough. A smirk tugged at the corner of my mouth. Enough? Her voice softened, switching gears. Manipulation mode activated. Come on, Ryan. We don't have to do this. I was hurt, you were hurt. Let's just put this behind us. We were good together once, weren't we? There it was. The bait. The subtle, honey-laced words meant to make me hesitate. Once, that tone had worked on me. Once, I would have second-guessed everything, convinced myself that maybe I was being too harsh. But not anymore. We were, I admitted. Then, with a slow exhale, I delivered the final blow. But now? You're just a stranger who got too comfortable in my house. Silence. This time, there was no comeback. No smart remark. Just the slow realization that for the first time in her life, Emily wasn't winning. Click. The last straw. The next day, the gloves came off. A notification popped up on my phone before I had even left the hotel. Emily Carter has filed a motion for spousal support. Of course she had. This wasn't about money. Not really. She knew I'd already set up my legal defenses, knew she had no chance of getting what she wanted. But this was a power move. Her way of proving she could still get a reaction out of me. Daniel, my lawyer, was already ahead of it. This is a joke, he said over the phone. She has no legal grounds. You've been married for under 5 years, no kids, and she's perfectly capable of supporting herself. She doesn't care if she wins, I muttered. She just wants to drag this out. A pause. Then a low chuckle. So let's not give her the chance. Emily wanted a war. But wars cost money, and thanks to her little affair, she didn't have any. That's when the next move clicked into place. She still has that leased apartment, right? I asked. Yeah, the one under her name. Good. Let's make sure she has to pay for it. Daniel caught on instantly. You want me to push for an expedited settlement? Not just expedited. Immediate. No delays. No negotiations. No drawn-out legal battles where she could play the victim. She wanted a fight? I was ending it in one move. By noon, Emily's lawyer was calling me. Not Daniel. Me. Her voice was tight, forced. Emily wants to reconsider settlement discussions. Of course she does. Another pause. Then, quieter, she didn't think you'd actually go through with this. That was the difference between us. She played games. I played to win. Endgame. The final conversation happened 3 days later. Not in person, she wouldn't dare face me now. Instead, a single text appeared on my screen. Emily, let's just get this over with. No anger. No insults. Just quiet surrender. I let the message sit for an hour before responding. Ryan, already done. Because the truth was, I had won the second I walked out that door. Emily thought she could drag this out. She thought she could twist the narrative, manipulate the situation, force me to react emotionally. But I had already moved past that. I wasn't playing defense anymore. By the time she texted, admitting defeat, I was already steps ahead. The legal team had filed everything, accounts were secured, assets divided. The cleanest way to destroy someone like Emily wasn't through rage, it was through efficiency. And she was finally starting to realize it. A second message popped up a few minutes later. Emily, let's meet. Talk this through. Just us. Right. Because now that her options were gone, she suddenly wanted a civilized conversation. I let the message sit unread for a while, enjoying the silence. The past few days had been a storm of chaos. Now, I was standing in the eye of it, watching her try to claw back control. Jason called a few hours later. She's losing it, man. She called me last night, crying. That almost made me laugh. Crying? Before or after she tried to spin some story about how I was the bad guy? A pause. He knew I was right. She's saying you blindsided her. That you just walked away and took everything without even trying to fix things. The audacity. Tell me something, Jason. Did she mention Nathan? Silence. Yeah, I muttered. Didn't think so. I hung up. Emily had spent years perfecting her image. She knew how to play the victim just